What is up, everybody? JT Best Ball here. I got my boys back for the Tuesday night thing we've been doing. Hartman and Chris, the Candyman. We got a fun show planned for you guys. Little, player talk first, like we do. We're going to tell you guys that we really need to get more of. Some of them you might be surprised about. And then we have a really fun draft idea that we think you are going to like.
I've got something to say, yeah. I work hard each and every day. I get lost in the words I say. I don't push pause, no, I push play. I won't stop till I make a change. I withdraw on the things I make. I turn flaws into flawless traits. I build tall, never capped in space. I won't stop till I hear him say.
What's up, fellas? How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good, man. What's up, Hartman? What's up, JT? Good to be back.
Doing good. Couldn't be better. Hey, by the way, Underdog finally released a contest today that JT will draft Bucky Irvin in. How about that?
He's kind of a premium player in that format too, isn't he?
I took him today in it.
Yeah.
My first Bucky Irvin share in the rookie sophomore draft.
I've been secretly waiting for this format for quite a while. Last year it released during March before the NFL draft. I think they figured some things out. It makes it maybe a little bit more fun after the NFL draft. I don't know. Maybe before it's good too, but I went ahead. I set like a top 60 ranking with the players, and I think the ADPs right now are way off, not even close to what they should be. So, and there's always the scroll down factor. Once you get to your last two picks, you can only draft 48 players, I think it is. So any player from about pick 37 to about pick 65 or maybe 70 is, I think, fair game, and some lower owned guys that should be definitely taken advantage of.
For sure. I haven't finished one yet. I was busy today and didn't have time to actually do anything live, so I just jumped in like 3 slows just to test it out. I've never done it before. Good old Steve is in one of my slows.
Nice.
So maybe I can learn from him what to do.
How about you, Hartman? Are you a fan of the format?
I only did I did 2 of them today. I've never actually played that format before.
Okay.
It was kind of interesting. There definitely did seem like some prices that weren't right, maybe with the ADPs. Like one that off the top of my head that didn't make sense is I know a Mika goes after Burden, which doesn't in a normal draft he goes a round or more ahead. So I don't know why he goes. I guess maybe because Caleb. That's the one thing you can only stack 2 of the QBs. You can only stack Caleb and Bo Nix. And I guess May with Kyle Williams. But
yeah, May you might be able to do Henderson if you get lucky. I haven't pulled that one off yet. But you could also do Kyle Williams. You get I guess where we were last year, we couldn't stack as much. You could only stack the sophomores. I think last year it closed in 48 or 72 hours. I think this year's is actually much bigger. I don't know if it's twice as big or 3 times as big, but I think it'll be open a little bit longer. But it's one of those time box tournaments that definitely comes and goes quickly, and it's kind of just different. It's fun. I forget how many I did last year, but I had one semifinal team. I think it just didn't make it to the finals, but it's a fun little sweat. You look back on those teams and the playoff weeks, and you're like, what the heck is going on? Because it's just, the most random outcomes. And I think people will stake their claims on oh, you want to do 2 QBs and then a hero running back and then just a bunch of volume at the flex wide receiver tight end spot. I've always thought I like to corner the room on QBs. So I'll draft 3 QBs in the first 4 or 5 rounds, and then I'll make someone in the room. And it typically works out math-wise. There's only so many, for sure, 17-week starter quarterbacks. So I'll make sure someone in the room has only one startable quarterback just to help get out of my pod. And then I'll make everyone else fight over the last ones. And then I'll start to scoop up the flex players. But I think also could just help a lot because the variability in the playoffs. And one thing I remember, I read this article last year about it, was in the normal tournaments, the quarterback accounts for a 7th of your lineup, but in this one, it's a 5th of your lineup. So it's actually, you want to put a little premium on the quarterbacks, and then the fact that they're scarce. So that makes it like an extra factor. But I think it's also a really fun format for zero RB where you could just take like your last 4 picks could be running backs, and that could be super viable too.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that because the first slow that I jumped in this morning, they're going fast with only the 4 people in it. And I was kind of thinking that that would be a smart strategy too. I had that 4 spot and I went BTJ and then I reached down to get Hampton. And then when it got back to me, let's see, who did I take when it got back to me? Then I took Ted and Drake May. But then when it got back to me at 2021, it was like really Penix and Ward were the only 2, quarterbacks other than like Dart or, Shuck out there. And I noticed that the 2 and 3 guy only had 1 quarterback each. So I was like, well, I'm just going to take Penix and Ward. And the other 2 of the other 3 guys are only going to have really 1 reliable quarterback. So
That's smart.
guess I'm on to something.
Yeah. Some people will argue that like the playoff weeks count for obviously most of the money. And so you just want to hit the nuts. Last year, it would have been taking Jaden Daniels and you wouldn't have needed any other quarterbacks. You could have taken any bye week filler and he would have been fine. Probably. I think the team that won was a Jaden Daniels team that just got lucky on some of the receivers. And the running backs weren't like a huge factor. But also last year, correct me if I'm wrong, last year was the year we had all of the sophomore running backs that were like super elite, right? So I think it was the rookies that were really, really terrible running backs, and it was the sophomores that were like the super elite guys. So the running backs would go early.
Yeah. It's a fun contest. I don't know. I'm probably not going to do a ton of them, but yeah, definitely like, a handful of them just to play around with it and see for sure. So the theme for tonight that we let everybody know about was guys we want more of. So I spent some time today kind of, looking through the bottoms of my exposures, and I came up with 3 guys. So I'll start it off with one of them. And the one that really popped out to me because I like him all the time, but I just haven't really been ending up with much of him lately. So it's dropped his percent is Achan. I was surprised to see I only have about 7% of him. If you would have asked me, I would have guessed that I probably had closer to 10% at least on him. Because I know at one point earlier in the year, I was up there around 12, 15% of him. But I don't know. He's moved up, closer to more like the 1-2 turn. It's almost where you have to take him now a lot of the times. And there's all those receivers there that we love and everything. So I will definitely be making a point here over the next week or 2 to get that percentage back up because we don't want to be low on Mr. Achan.
Yeah, no doubt. And the price has been rising with what's going on the last, I guess, 2 weeks. But a player you got to chase a little bit because some people will take him in the first round these days.
Yeah. What about you, Hartman?
Yeah. So I guess for my first one, I would probably say JJ McCarthy is like a QB that kind of stood out. I have him at about 5%. I'd like him closer to like Field or even a little above. I think I'm not a big fan of his as a talent, but I've kind of come around like for example, I'm fading the Seahawks a little because I don't believe in Darnold, but it's like if the argument is because the Vikings and KOC make him so great, then even if I don't think McCarthy's that great, like the system, the talent, it makes him a good value, and you see him even kind of moving up now. So I kind of want to get more before
for sure.
if he moves up even more.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised that he's gone up like 20 spots since the open and 10 spots since kind of like things have settled, and it's only just because I don't know what there's really nothing that's making him rise other than people just have an appetite for drafting him now.
Well, I think lately though we've seen a lot of the quarterbacks kind of rise a little. I think it's a lot of the people I think people are really like 3 QB pilled, and then they start seeing them get like taken off the board, and then kind of freaking out, like pull them up, pull them up, pull them up. Because I feel like you're seeing that a lot more, like maybe last couple weeks since kind of maybe the sim data and stuff came out. I feel like you're seeing a lot more people take the on stack third QB and pull up QBs a little more, stuff like that. Kind of valued a little heavier.
That's right.
For sure, for sure. There is a lot of that going on. I was just saying that a couple weeks ago, because I used to always be one that like was so hesitant to take an unstacked QB. And just looking back at my team, say from last year or even early this summer, like probably some of those teams could have been better off if I just would have given in and had my third quarterback been unstacked to take a dude who's pretty good versus taking Daniel Jones because I have Pittman or something
Right.
like that.
I think that's a interesting way to look at it. It's like, yeah, maybe you get a stack Daniel Jones, but does that actually win you anything? Is the question.
Right. What's up, Nick? Good to see you in here. See you've been hopping in the chat. What's up, Dirty P? Good to see you in here. McCarthy pulled up is a function of battles between JJ drafters and the Andy Hawk drafters. Yeah, a combination of that and like Hartman was saying, it's like we saw what O'Connell did with Dobbs even there for a while, who never has really been anything other than the brief time that he was good in Minnesota with O'Connell. So if JJ can sling the ball at all, we love drafting Addison. We love drafting Hawk. JJ, we think, is the number one receiver, period. Well, a lot of people do. Some people still take Chase, obviously, as the number one pick in best ball. But just, pure talent, a lot of people say it's JJ. So, like, O'Connell, this awesome play caller and all that talent on offense, if McCarthy is good in that situation, I mean, sky's the limit, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
I think for him versus Chase, I think pass volume would probably be the limiting factor. Because I think if they're a successful team, they might be more middle rate or like lean a little run heavy even. Because they did improve their O line a lot. They brought in a running back, right? I don't know. Like they have the potential to be a little bit better team, so I think their pass rate might be lower, and that might just limit the opportunities a little more than maybe Chase.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see the argument. I don't think any of the top 3 receivers to take any of them 101 like in a single draft would be that crazy.
Sure. You could even throw Puka in there if you're getting really courageous. If you wanted to say, you just want to have an exposure of a top wideout, the guy that could win you a week. I think Puka, I've kind of warmed up to like, what's the big difference? I mean, we have to see it from him, obviously, but he's whether it's health or just because Devontae's there, but he's set up in an offense that could, go off and just like win a week, I think.
Yeah.
Plus, I think Stafford his ceiling's been missing, but he's a known commodity, right? It's not an unknown piece, him and McVay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Stafford's ceiling's missing for him in fantasy, but like he can put up monster, like he has the ceiling for his receivers. Like he can put up the games where they can hit monster ceilings like any QB, but it's just such a lack of rushing, right? He just has such a hard time hitting that ceiling without like 4 touchdowns at least.
No doubt.
Mm-hmm.
So,
did you want to?
I've got a guy that I need to get some more of. A guy that I want to get some more of, and it's not just one guy; it's 3 guys, and it's a group of guys that have something in common. It's the elite tight ends, because I said going into Best Ball Mania season after the big board, I kind of had worked it out that I wanted to have an elite tight end on about a third or more of all of my teams. And then the way that the drafts have just gone, the way that it's fallen, the values that there are, that hasn't happened at all. If I look across all my exposures, I've got Kittle, which I'm kind of embarrassed to say, but I think my exposures have just continued to dwindle on Kittle. I'm only at 7.1% Kittle across all tournaments, and I'm at 9% for Best Ball Mania. For McBride, I'm an even 7% on both. And then for Bowers, I'm also a 7.5%. So somewhere along the way, I've kind of just stopped. Maybe I got so comfortable with the late tight end and taking 3 of them and maybe some of these middle guys. But when I add those up, that's 7, 8, 15. I'm at like 20 to 22% of the time I'm taking an elite tight end versus what I anticipated to be like 50% more than that. I guess it's just because of the opportunity cost, but I also don't want to miss out on these elite tight ends. So I need to get more of these guys.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of feel the same way, except y'all know I'm one of the few that's out on McBride. It's a whole Kyler thing with me and the touchdowns. I think it is kind of sticky, but I have like 19% Bowers and about 12% Kittle, so I'm making it up through those two.
I I have all three between 11 and 13. I'm actually like super balanced on all of them. They're
Smooth.
like right around 12. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is probably the smarter way to play it than me, for sure.
Well, I
I
think
mean, I don't know, a
with-
big bag of Bowers. That's not too bad.
that's not a bad take on the McBride Kyler situation, because for Kyler to be unlocked for fantasy, it's the ground game where he's going to have to increase his workload. I don't know how, besides increasing, like having like an outlier season for touchdowns, I don't really know what else he can do in that regard. I think you see potentially we're all kind of baking in, at least the market's baking in, Marvin Harrison Jr. taking a step forward. So that could feed back to Kyler having some better yardage. But at the end of the day, they're kind of a run heavy team. And if I think that's the opportunity, when I've gone back and forth with some Cardinals fans on Twitter and come around on Kyler in the last few months, and it's, you got to unlock him on the ground game, and that's how you get to his fantasy ceiling. And so what does that do for McBride? Is it just status quo, or what would it take to get McBride to be super worth it where he's currently going? But at the same time, I don't want to be out on McBride, because I do feel like he could really punish some playoff teams if I go out there with 3 tight ends, all ADP like 130 plus, and I'm thinking I can beat a McBride team when he has like a week 15 and 16 that's just uncomparable. That could really put you back a little bit, especially for the larger field tournaments like Best Ball Mania.
That's why I take a decent amount of Bowers and Kittle, and probably my highest overall tight end is Hawkinson too, because I feel like he's the one guy that's not up there with those three that could potentially, hit like that if you're talking about a 1 game sample or whatever. And with McBride and Kyler, my thing is just like, I broke it down on my stream the other night, like all the receptions and yards that he's had over the last 2 years, but then he has a total of 5 touchdowns. And I think it's because, clearly we know how short Kyler is, and like it doesn't affect him as much in between the 20s. You can spread the defense out. Some guys are going deep. The middle of the field is more open, but especially when you get down there inside that, 15 down to the 10-yard line, like there's not a lot of time for plays to develop. So traditionally, a tight end's area that he's always going to work is that little middle of the end zone area right there. You take Kyler's height, you take the offense and defensive line all being anywhere from 6'3" to 6'5", generally, and I
Sure.
just really think, especially down there in the red zone, Kyler has a hard time seeing and getting to that middle area of the end zone where traditionally tight ends work. That's my theory. He could score 12 touchdowns and make me look like an idiot this year, but I don't know. I just rather pass on him. I'll take Bowers a little earlier. I'll take Kittle a little later.
Hartman, you were talking about JJ McCarthy. What's your take on Hawkinson?
I like Hawkinson. I think he'll kind of be the dump off safety valve. I think he's a little underpriced because of like he was slow last year coming off the ACL, but I think he's shown to be like a top end talent before. I'm pretty in on him this year too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Upside week to week could be a little lower. He's kind of more like like amass the stats type guy, but so maybe he doesn't have like the crazy spikes like a more explosive player like Njoku or something. But I think the
Oh, right.
consistency you'll get from a guy like that is, where the value comes in.
That's
From Hawkinson.
From Hawkins. That's an interesting comparison to Njoku, because I was starting to think about, the difference maybe in my mind between Laporta and Hawkinson versus McBride is that McBride can be the de facto like true like alpha target number one in receptions and yardage on his team, maybe touchdowns, we'll see, but haven't seen it yet. Whereas there's like 0% chance that Laporta or Hawkinson could do that, where you have a Monra and Justin Jefferson, barring injury, like they're gonna be the top target. And then with the Njoku situation, I think he potentially, I mean, Jerry Jeudy did have a nice season, right? But he probably has a better chance of competing week to week with Jerry Jeudy for targets than Hawk or Laporta might with those two receivers. So I don't know if it matters all too much in a 1 week scenario, but that's kind of what I think of as like maybe why you could have like a big bull case for McBride is he's just like the top target on his team. Same thing with Bowers, obviously, right?
Yeah. I mean, and the same could almost be said for Kittle this year too.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe not at the end of the year if Ayuk comes back and if Ayuk's really killing it, but how many times do we see a guy even off of what should be a simple ACL injury? Let's say he really is out 5 or 6 games, like a lot of people are predicting. Well, even by the end of the year, he might not just be killing it to where they've been playing all year with Kittle as kind of their number one option. I could definitely see, the scenario where at the end of the year, Kittle leads them in receptions, maybe not yards because receivers generally get more yards, but no, I'm definitely in on him, definitely in on Bowers. McBride is going to make me look dumb, but whatever. We'll all have our faults, right?
Oh, there was one thing I wanted to kind of bring, like when you were talking about McBride with Kyler. I also think the touchdowns, I mean, they could be a McBride problem. That dude has been allergic to the end zone his entire life. I don't know if you guys, I actually pulled him up a minute ago.
His high school or his college?
His college. Well, the high school was like his senior year. He scored like 2 touchdowns in high school, right? Something.
I don't know why we know that. We're just sick, degenerate.
Matic pulled it up the one.
Was it a Matic stream?
It was on like ship chasing or something. Yeah. But in college, he played 40 games. How many touchdowns do you think? 4 years, he played 40 games.
God, was it actually 2 or was it 5?
Oh no, this is more than that. This is all 4 years combined.
Oh, okay, maybe I'm just thinking of the last year then.
4 years, I'm going to say 11.
He had 10. His last year, he only had 1. And he had 90 catches for 1,100 yards and 1 touchdown.
Colorado State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I got some facts straight. And it's been a while. I haven't looked at his profile in a while, but like college-wise, but that's really funny. It's hilarious almost. Allergic to the end zone. When I think of that phrase, my mind goes to Jaylen Warren, who is also allergic to the end zone, but I'd have to go back and refresh on what he did in college to kind of drive that point home. But he's a guy I come back around. I'm drafting him. I wasn't drafting him. Now I'm drafting him again. I guess I'm looking for dump offs from Aaron Rodgers at the end of the day.
The one I always think of is
Caleb Johnson blows a blitz assignment. That might be it for him and Rodgers.
That's true. Aaron Rodgers can definitely pick favorites.
Oh yeah, definitely. Lazard will be there soon enough.
And apparently
he isn't.
Apparently, Jaylen Warren's actually really good at pass blocking, right? That's one of his strengths that they've.
Oh, yeah, he is.
He got rated like number 1 in the league last year or something, or like top 3 in the league. Yeah.
And a lot of injuries last season, so maybe it's a little bit presumptuous to put Caleb Johnson so far ahead of him. One of the things that I'm reminded of is like, in a slightly ambiguous backfield situation, sometimes you just want to take the guy who's later in ADP and get some value there. And that would technically be Jaylen Warren in that situation. So maybe it does make sense to not, for me, for my own exposures, not to be fully out on Jaylen Warren, get back in on some. In fact, I'll look it up now. I've got it pulled up here. My Jaylen Warren, and this is not one of my guys that I was saying I need to get more of, but I'll look it up just live. My Jaylen Warren's only at 5% across all tournaments. So that's probably I should consider getting it to at least 8% and be fine with that, but it's a little low.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's I mean, I think it depends. It just depends how much you believe in Caleb Johnson, right? Like
Well, my
'cause I'm
Caleb Johnson is at honestly, it's just below 8%. So I guess I'm a little bit weak on the
oh
Steelers
wow.
in general.
Hmm.
I
Well,
only have a very little amount of Johnson, but I do have a good amount of Warren. He's kind of been the guy from that room that I've been taking all summer, pretty much, just because I played it all summer, assuming Rodgers would go there. It only made sense. It kind of seemed like they weren't rushing to do anything else, so they probably knew that Rodgers was coming, because I don't think they wanted to go into the season with whatever their other options were outside of bringing in old man Rodgers, and so they didn't really seem desperate for
Will
another
Howard.
quarterback.
Will Howard
Yeah.
for a half minute.
Uh,
The Pittsburgh boy. He's come back home to, he won the natty.
So
Do it all.
my second guy, it kind of didn't surprise me because I was thinking about him the other day. Y'all know how I am on Lamar this year. He's my guy of all my guys. But I can't figure out how I want to play him with Likely. More times than not, Andrews is always sitting there at a decent value. And I'm like, all right, sure, I'll throw Andrews on there with Lamar. So because of that, I only have like 4% Likely for as much as I'm in on the Ravens this year.
Oh,
I
likely.
think,
Hmm.
I think what I want to start doing with him, since clearly I'm going to draft a lot of Lamar, is I want to start taking him maybe as like my first tight end, but then put a couple other guys with him that are your steady eddies, maybe like a Hunter Henry or a Johnson from the Saints, because he's not going
Sure.
to be a guy that hits your lineup all the time, but historically when he hits, for a random out of nowhere explosion game, 6 catches, 80 yards and 2 touchdowns or something. That's generally when Likely blows up, he blows up. So I don't know. I want to get some more of him, and I've been thinking today about how I want to play it. I think he definitely should probably be on a 3 tight end team, unless you had somebody earlier, maybe like him and a Hawkinson or something, where you feel good with what Hawkinson's going to give you. But I think the 12, I have 12% on Andrews, and I think that's what kind of keeps me away from Likely a little bit. But I don't know. He's a guy I definitely want to try to maybe back off of Andrews a little bit on those Lamar teams and just wait and up the Likely shares a little bit.
Yeah, I think
oh,
that makes sense. Likely is in the range where if you just want to increase your exposure on him, you just end up taking him a little bit ahead, and very very comfortable spot to grab a guy there. You're not really sacrificing anything from the quarterback pocket range of rounds 9 through 12. It's really just the opportunity cost of like a wide receiver 5 or 6, or maybe a running back like 4 or 5 kind of range.
Yeah.
well, yeah,
What
I mean,
about you, Hartman?
if it makes you feel any better, you have about 4 times as much Isaiah Likely as me.
Oh shit.
Ooh. So you are out.
Oh yeah, I have 1%. I have $18 on Isaiah Likely's head.
Damn. But Harbin, he's actually good at football. What's going on?
Um, he's a backup. There's a lot of good backups, but Mark Andrews actually runs the routes and plays tight end. Isaiah Likely plays part-time receiver.
Cold.
That's a
But
good.
true.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe I should just
Well,
stick with my 4%. You're making me rethink it already.
because Likely's problem, he doesn't play like the inline like real tight end snaps. So when
Yeah.
Andrews is healthy, it it really limits him. I do think he can have the big plays and explode like on a week, but I just think it's such a thin bet unless Andrews gets hurt. Because especially when you look at like how Likely did the like later in the season, like even a couple weeks in, once Andrews was kind of back to speed, but especially like week 8 or 9 on, like halfway through, like Andrews just completely like took him off the field pretty much.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think what it comes down to for me, I'll take Likely if I feel a little bit desperate on my Lamar Jackson stacks, but at the same time, it kind of goes against the whole thought that like you could actually take naked Lamar and be just fine. So I think my exposure to Likely, and I don't have a whole lot. I could pull it up real quick. Is when Likely goes well past ADP, and then I do have the stack like ready to go. So I'm at 3% Likely, but I don't hate it just because I feel like any piece of Lamar Jackson could be really good for like a 1 week stretch. And if Likely's not free though, that's I guess where Hartman's coming from is like the Likely isn't like there are other tight ends who are much more viable for I would say higher season long scoring that go after him, like Gesicki or even Hunter Henry and other guys.
I mean, he technically goes ahead of like Jake Ferguson. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
that's that like right around Ferguson and Goddard. That just seems like a really
it's a
tough.
little rich.
Yeah, I mean,
That's true.
I do get the contingent upside though with an older player in front of him. That totally makes sense. But
I guess
You're making me rethink it already. For
the
sure.
counter argument would be like you can get Cole Kmet for free, and like what's the difference between the amount of snaps and routes that Kmet would play versus Likely? But I guess it's a better offense with the Ravens.
yeah, when and Andrews, I think if you're one of those people who's really bought into Likely, I think part of that bet is like Andrews is kind of washed. He saved his year last year with a bunch of touchdowns. Like he's not really the same player. The fall off continues, right?
You're
I
betting
think
on a flip where like Likely takes over the role for some reason.
right. I mean, at least I would assume. I mean, I'm not in, so maybe that's wrong, but I would assume that have to be part of your process. You're not thinking Andrews is going for 10 touchdowns, 800 yards, and Likely's going to hit and pay off and beat ADP, right? Andrews has to fail for Likely to smash.
There's
Yeah,
one
and
quote. Oh, go ahead, JT.
I was going to say my thinking is when I say I want more of him, I don't necessarily want to, not like a buy guy or anything, but I wouldn't mind having more like closer to 8% of him when it's all said and done. And I'm more so thinking about it from like, if I'm right about Lamar and Lamar's going to be the QB1 this year, then like there's going to be a lot of Lamar teams in the playoffs, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so like I'm just looking at knowing that out of nowhere Likely can be that guy like we talked about that for a tight end that can kind of spike when he spikes, that might be a kind of good out, if you're in one of these playoff pods with, let's say you're in a 1 of 8 advances and 4 other teams are all Lamar teams, but 2 of them are, with Flowers, the other 2 are with Andrews, and you're sitting there with like a Lamar Bateman Likely. Well, you got the contrarian play to where if it hits, you got an easy path out of that pod. That's kind of more so the way I was thinking about it, not so much like, oh, I just love this guy and I think he's going to take over for Andrews. I have 3 times more Andrews than Likely, so I still think he's the dude too.
No doubt. Two quick things. One for the chat would be if you're really in on drafting Likely, consider also drafting Noah Gray because he's free and he's very similar to Likely. Honestly, he similar yardage, similar number of touchdowns last season. I don't know like the advanced stats off the top of my head, but you could take Noah Gray for the exact same thesis that like he's going to overtake Kelsey. Kelsey's not going to play the whole season. He's going to be limited snaps, whether through injury or just whatever. Kelsey's much older than Andrews, and you could argue it's equally as good of a passing offense. I honestly like the Ravens a little bit better like, from an efficiency standpoint, but there might be more volume for the Chiefs depending on what they do with Mahomes this year. So you could also take Noah Gray as kind of like a free dart throw if we're talking about like tight end 2s who might flip these like more historically elite tight end ones. And then one last thing I'll throw in there is a quote from Lamar Jackson. Man, I don't know if it was last year. I think it was last year during this time last year, 1 year ago at training camp. And the quote came through. It might have been 2 years ago, honestly, but it was either last year or 2 years ago. and Lamar Jackson's on the sideline. He's talking to one of just a normal beat reporter, whatever, and they're talking about chemistry. And Lamar Jackson says, "I have really good connection with Zay." And the beat reporter says, "Oh, Zay Flowers, maybe it was his rookie year, so it must have been 2 years ago. Zay Flowers, like the new rookie." And he goes, "No, Isaiah Likely." And so that whole I don't know, that just stuck with me of like to know that they have that kind of connection, that when they ask about what's going on in training camp, that Lamar Jackson would bring up Isaiah Likely. At the time, he's a backup tight end, and then calling him Zay, they're at that level of like they have some kind of something between them, a connection, right? Where they feel comfortable. Lamar feels comfortable throwing the ball. So that was a while ago, and I've sprinkled, Likely in, and then last year, of course, kind of started the season hot, and so I think that's why he's going so high in ADP. But all of those things considered, I don't think. I guess he's just expensive, like Hartman was saying, purely compared to the other tight ends in that range.
Yeah, I think if he was going like more in like the tight end like low 20s, I would have a lot easier time clicking him like Henry Jasicki range or something, because it's hard for me to take him over, especially Goddard or Ferguson. I think they both have more upside than he does unless Andrews gets hurt, and they both play on very good offenses as well. They're the clear tight end one, less competition.
That's fair. And like I said, I don't think I would ever take Likely on a team that didn't have Lamar. I was thinking I'm playing it more so, like I said, for like a kind of unique thing, because he's not the ideal guy that you would normally stack with Lamar. So I'm kind of thinking like I'm going to have so many Lamar teams. Hopefully I get enough Lamar teams into the playoffs. All right, let me try to be as different as I can with all my Lamar teams so that I have a little bit of everything. I want Lamar with Flowers in the playoff. I want Lamar with my boy D-Hop even in the playoffs. I want Lamar with Likely on some teams in the playoffs. Just, that way whoever hits, hey, that might be the team that makes it through for me. But who you got for your second one, Hartman?
I had it. So I think, I have one that's just really obvious, but it's just kind of news. Is like the Dylan Sampson. Like I don't have very much. I have like 2%.
Oh,
So, obviously want more of him. Just a risk that Judkins is taking on and stuff. I mean, that one's not really like, if that news didn't come out, I wouldn't have that opinion. So it's not really like as much like a guy I've changed my opinion on. But just with the news, I definitely want to get more of him.
so
What do y'all think about
where have you
the news?
moved him up to in your ranks? Like what tier? Like who are the two in front? Who are like the two behind? Like just relative, like not exactly, but just like who do you take him around now? Samson currently today.
Let me look. He's at 178. I'd probably take him like over Roshan. So
Yep.
like just behind that Jalen Wright, Bigsby, Eckler. Just behind that group, maybe.
I just had mine up, and then you brought that up. I'm gonna bring mine up again because I was looking where I had Likely. I have Likely. Just going. We won't dwell on that point, but just I had Likely. There it is, just behind Strange and Ertz, and I guess right where Hunter Henry is, Gesicki is, kind of just, but he never really makes it there, so I never really get him. Mm-hmm. And then for Sampson, I've moved him up behind Garendo. So it goes Garendo, Sampson, and then I have Dowdle and Wright. And I moved Ford up a lot too. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I have Ford up a couple spots after that too. I'm kind of going on the assumption right now that Quinshon's like undraftable, or like I'm never going to draft him. I have him ranked like right after Scattaboo, so like around 115, almost 120. So I'm never going to see him in my drafts anymore. And I'm just like on this. I don't know what's going to happen, but I had like 13% Quinshon Judkins, so I just need to not click.
I had more than that, unfortunately.
We all did. I mean, he's in my intro.
I'm gonna smile about it because we talked about it, on the show where we were talking about our highest percents. Like I'm well aware that being extremely high on guys sometimes will pay off for you. Sometimes it hurts you. But hey, we all play, the way that we like to play. And yeah, I had like 20% of him. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely not drafting him anymore. But then I was going to ask y'all what y'all thought too. I forget. I wish I was listening to somebody this morning, and it's a bigger, I want to say he was a bigger streamer. I don't remember who it was that I heard saying this, but they were really getting into, the details of it, and talking about some of the other cases that are similar to this in the past. And like, there's everything out there. Some people think that he's for sure going to get suspended this year. This person that I heard talking this morning about it was saying that there's a very real possibility that, it could be into 2026 season before, he's suspended if the trial drags out or whatever. So it's like, I'm not drafting him anymore, but I guess I'm holding out a little bit of hope that, like, maybe from a, just best ball standpoint, it does kind of drag out, or maybe either drags out or gets over with early and he's suspended early in the year, and then at least he'll still be on those teams late in the year if they're doing good. I'm with Hartman. I don't have much Sampson at all, and I don't really think I want to chase him up the board. I have started drafting Ford some, just because you never know, right? And
Ford's a
he
good player.
still is hanging around round 18. You could get him at the end, whereas Sampson, I've seen him go in like the 15th round a couple times.
But I think the thing with that Sampson price though is like, what's the difference between the 15th round and the 17th round realistically? Like player archetype wise, like you're gonna like, because I don't know, like the other running backs you would debate around there, like are they really much better than Sampson? Like you got like Jalen Wright, like was the guy said I have Sampson just behind. Like I don't know if
That's a
Quinshon
fun
does
one.
get suspended, he's
It's a
way
fun one because
worse
we can
than
go back and look
Sampson.
at Wright and Sampson on the same team, and I think it was Wright getting like a ton of those touches. And I don't know if it's a seniority thing, but like I'll pull it up. But Hartman, you keep going.
Oh yeah, no, I was just saying like the price in the 15th round, 14th round, it's like I'm not really worried about chasing him up there. I'm worried if in a month Quinshon does get suspended and then Dylan Sampson is where Quinshon used to go or something. Or if it is like real bad and Quinshon gets a long suspension, 8 games, or he's on commissioner's list and it's not
Yeah.
known, Sampson's gonna shoot up like unbelievable amounts and you'll have 0 and he'll be going way higher than you're ever comfortable clicking him. It's either have to be all the way out or get a bag then, right?
That's a really good point. I think I'm gonna make myself start taking some of him, even if it is the 15th round, just to get it. Nick says he's gonna
Get
be
him.
this year's Bucky.
Could be. I'm thinking this is based on nothing. 50% chance Quinshon Judkins suspended something like 6 games. 25% chance it's more or less. And I'm thinking there's like a 25% chance he's on some kind of list and like has contract dispute issues. He's still unsigned and he like never even plays. Like it could, I'm giving it that much of a percent chance that this is just like very bad.
Done.
And he hasn't signed the contract. Something's going to happen. They're going to put him on a commissioner list. He's not going to play. He's going to hold out. Maybe he never plays. That could be like, he's very young. So maybe he's got some agents who, tell him to hold out. He's made millions playing for Ohio State. Like the guy is not hurting for money. So he could easily hold out in my mind. Besides the point, in a PSA that I'm going to be changing my intro and taking off the Quinshon Judkins clip that's like half of my intro, but whooops,
He's not guilty yet. He's not guilty.
That'll take me some time. It's a lot of work to make those intros, but so I'll be behind on that one. I'll still have to run it for a few weeks. But at Tennessee in 2023, Jalen Wright had 137 attempts rushing in 12 games for 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns, 85 yards per game. He threw it, a couple 22 receptions. Dylan Sampson had comparable, but a lot less. 106 attempts in the same amount of games, 600 yards, 7 touchdowns, 17 receptions. So Dylan Sampson, slightly better in the receiving game than Jalen Wright, but Jalen Wright's a dead zero in the receiving game we've seen, at least at this point. And then when Jalen Wright was getting about 7.5 yards per attempt, Sampson was getting about 5.7 yards per attempt in the exact same offense. Maybe there's some difference about loaded box or what kind of touches they were getting. But overall, when they're on the exact same team, getting very similar opportunities, it just looks like Wright was that much better than Dylan Sampson. When you go back to 2022, Wright had 150 carries, almost 900 yards, 10 touchdowns. Sampson had 60 carries, 400 yards, 6 touchdowns. So I love kind of looking at players' college production when it's comparable to each other on the same team, and thinking about where they are in the NFL. If that gives us any kind of frame of reference, I think Sampson could be serviceable, but I just don't know if he's like the guy. I don't know that he's like a league winner. I think potentially if the Judkins thing goes really bad, Jerome Ford could be like the steal of the draft.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's why I've been taking him some, just because I don't know. I haven't wanted to give in yet to the Sampson rise, but Hartman made a good point about like if the news comes out before the season, like let's say even mid-August or early August, and it is going to be a lengthy suspension, or he's put on the commissioner exempt list, which then he'll just be suspended until they actually, come up with the decision for how many games. Then like Hartman's right, Sampson's going to fly up the board to a spot you probably don't want to take him. And then you're just like stuck not having any or very little of him. So it does make sense, I guess, to go ahead and give in and take some now.
And I kind of think too, like, I think Ford, because he's an 18th round pick, could be like obviously a great value. But like even last year, like I don't know, he didn't really pay off that great for he just,
and I didn't have a ton last year, so I'm starting to get wise to like what Ford outcomes are.
Yeah, well, like last year, like he only had 4 top 24 games.
Maybe it's partially the Browns' fault, or because their quarterback play and they're like one of the lowest scoring offenses. Do you think that's part of it? Because it seems like he's decent at yardage sometimes, or no?
I mean, I guess it could be. I guess I'd have to maybe like look at that more. I mean, it's so hard because I was gonna say like Chubb was always efficient, but Chubb's like borderline Hall of Fame type talent. Like
he's like an outlier. You can't really compare to him.
Different. Yeah,
this isn't. I have not dug deep into Jerome Ford. I remember like looking at his profile when he was coming in as a rookie for like dynasty purposes, but he's never been a player I've drafted a ton of. But I'm just going out on a limb and saying, just the whole theory of take, an ambiguous running back situation, take the cheapest guy. And then in this case, he's also the veteran guy who's at least, I think he's produced like one season as maybe as a running back, kind of 3 value range. So like, he's not completely unproven. If this thing goes really sideways with Judkins, maybe Ford is like a super valuable pick, which hurts me to say because people have been touting Ford as like a great pick for the last like 3 months, and I've let him go undrafted over and over and over again.
Oh yeah, same here. But I mean, if the Quinshon thing never happens, you don't even really feel bad about that. That's just kind of bad luck. I like my thought on the Quinshon thing. I think he doesn't even get suspended, to be honest. That's kind of I'm actually still even taking more now if he falls enough.
Oh shit.
That's what I'm telling you. I need to go back and look through my history because I listen to bits and pieces of so much throughout the day. I don't remember who it was I was listening to this morning, but they were literally like saying that same thing, that like they think it's a better chance than not that it kind of just drags out and he'll get suspended, but it will be next year that he gets suspended and not this year. I don't remember who it was that I heard saying that. I real quick, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think with like the domestic violence cases too, there's a lot where they get reported, and then when it actually comes time to go to court, they've been contacted, maybe given some money, who knows, but the accuser does not show up, and then it's thrown out. That happened, for example, like Greg Hardy, he went crazy, but that girl didn't show up, so he didn't even get charges. Now his was so bad he got suspended like the day it happened, but I don't think Quinchon's like. I mean, it's not near that level. His was like terrible. But if
Mhm.
the girl, if
No.
something like that happens, and you see the police reports too, like I read through those, like her
Yeah.
statements, like she seemed pretty hesitant to even call it in. She waited some time. She like didn't want to mess up his career and everything.
Speculation.
All right.
No, I'm just kidding. Just lawyer talk. Hearsay. Speculation.
No, that's in the police reports.
No, I know. You're right. I read those too.
Yeah. Yeah, that she said she like didn't want to do it at first because she didn't want to like mess up his career. And it's like I
This
don't know.
was the hot,
Already
this was the
made
hot news of the
millions.
weekend.
I read that too.
I guess I was on Pacific time for over the weekend. I was on my little trip, and then so like I rolled out of bed and I'm like reading the police reports first thing in the morning at like 5:30, 6 a.m. Pacific. Like, gotta get an edge. Gotta read the news. I'm
Real
jealous
quick,
though, Hartman. But by the time you guys wake up, all the news has already come out from the East Coast and everything.
Right. Yeah, no, for real. Yeah.
Anyways,
Well, Hartman's over there on the West Coast, aren't you?
that's what I meant. Did I say East Coast? I meant
Yeah.
West Coast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the East Coast news.
Speaking of which, Hartman, look at the private chat real quick if you haven't recently.
Oh, I have not.
Typical. Head up, Hartman.
I don't see the little. I have the normal chat always open, but I don't. I missed a little.
This is how we're gonna do it, chat. So in a few minutes, we're gonna hop into a puppy. All three of us are gonna hopefully try to get in the same draft. And if we can get in the same puppy draft and make it work, then we have a fun plan. We are all going to try to draft the same type of build. It is a very specific thing to the build that we have to do. We want you guys, as we draft these teams, to try to guess what type of build it is that we are doing. At the end of the draft, I'm going to start a poll for fun. You guys can pick and kind of see who you think.
Oh,
we'll see.
oh, it's snap filled.
Damn.
I think Hartman's not in there.
I am not.
Did you get in, Hartman?
No, I just went. I missed it.
Me and Candyman is in.
All right, well, we'll screen share. Hartman can be the
Hartman will have to
I'll
be the
judge.
commentator.
Yeah,
Here,
he'll
look,
be the
we're gonna
full-time
do it
quarterback.
like this. Hold on real quick. Let me switch screens real quick.
Yeah.
Did it feel like as soon as you joined?
I was the last one to
Pretty
join.
much.
Damn. Okay. Yeah.
Share
Yeah. Because
screen.
I entered and then it was like fresh lobby. I was like,
That's the thing with these puppies. I was telling you guys, like they fill so quickly. It's impossible to time it early.
yeah.
So I'm gonna do it like this, guys. I'm gonna leave it on the board the whole time, and then I will just use my other computer here to do my draft. So then Hartman can just have the full view of the board the whole time. You can give us a good old play-by-play on it, Hartman.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Good. I was wondering though, did you guys do your Dalmatians or no?
I'm saving them, but I'm gonna do them. I'm thinking about doing one tonight, but I'm been saving them because I didn't know how long it would take to fill. I honestly did not think it would fill this quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it fills by like early tomorrow because it's at 80. It's at 87%.
It was 50% yesterday, and it was like 60% this morning.
I know. I don't know where it must just be people, I guess, getting their slows in because they're worried about it or something. I don't know. It's crazy. It's only a 3 max though. It's so crazy.
I honestly thought it would have been open for like based on the Greyhound. I thought the Dalmatian would have been open for at least 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not that big, but like 101
But 3
max
instead of 1.
The Greyhound was $35.
What's that? It's half the size and a 3 max because the Greyhound's like 6,000 people.
Yeah, so just the fact that it's you can get 3 entries in and it's half the size, so 6 times faster, I guess. But the Greyhound's been open for like over a month.
Yeah, I think just with the single entry, it's so hard, right? Because that one you need 6,360 individual people. The Dalmatian, you could fill that with under 1,000 people if they all max it.
That's true. Well, have you done your 3, Hartman?
I haven't even done one yet. I thought it would last way longer too.
Okay, well, don't
wonder
get
if
in
I'm
my
gonna do
don't get in
slow.
my lobbies tonight. I want to get some TV. Well, JT, is that a tournament you're interested in?
Yeah, I'm gonna do all 3 of them. I just haven't did them yet. I was in
We'll
Vegas
stay out of
all
my
week
lobbies
and
tonight then.
couldn't
We can't be all
draft.
in the same lobby for these
I
Dalmatians.
don't know. I might. What do y'all
That
think about
second
slow
draft, you
drafts
won't miss
with
it.
those? I was thinking about doing 1 or 2 of mine as a slow
I
draft.
probably will do one slow just in case if it fills tomorrow and I can't get into it.
I'm gonna do 2 slows probably. I'll probably do 1 tonight, and then it'll probably just be too late. So I'll just put in 2 slows because like there's some of those too, like just in the middle of the night they'll fill like a bunch just out of nowhere. Like I don't know, some like you wake up and they're pretty much filled.
The tournaments. So I skipped the Chihuahua. I skipped the mini Dalmatian, and I skipped the latest mini Schnauzer. Did you guys fire off on those?
I filled the Chihuahua. I maxed that. The Schnauzer I got like 3, and the little Dalmatian I also did like 5 maybe, something like that. But yeah, they
The
just
little
went
Dalmatian was out and filled before I even knew it existed.
Mm.
But admittedly, this weekend I kind of unplugged. I really wasn't on Twitter. I tried to stay off of my phone and just, have fun, spend some time with the wife. Got back and Mark was like, "Did you hear about the $1 mini Dalmatian?" Nope.
Yeah, no.
It was already gone.
I'm surprised they did that one with the puppy out, but I guess they can slow the puppy down a little bit. The puppy's moving along, but it's not like I think it's not 50% yet, right?
I think it's over 50% now. It has to
I
be,
about to
Oh,
right?
say, I
shoot, is
think
it?
it's getting close. If it isn't over, it's close.
Yeah,
I probably
it's
haven't looked.
dead on 50.1.
Okay, well, I haven't looked at it. I did some puppies, but I haven't. I've done quite a few puppies, but I haven't looked at it in maybe a day. So it's catching up too.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think just with that Dalmatian, I mean, what? Why do they care? They slowed down the puppy for 12 hours. Like, you know what I mean? That thing filled in like that was crazy. I couldn't believe that. That was a big
Rookies
tournament
and
too.
sophomores.
Yeah,
But the rookies and sophomores it's a group within a group because like you'll see people kind of like Superflex and they'll just be like, "Yep, I'm never gonna draft that tournament." So like it's actually some of the most like sicko drafters in those 4x4 those 4 people rooms, and so it's not necessarily a plus EV contest. I'll say that at least.
yeah. So I'll go over what you guys are doing real quick. So you started Saquon Bowers, Chase Brown, Candyman. Interesting start, and then JT started 3 straight running backs. High T, A Chain, Henry, Brees Hall. That's some high T starts.
Yeah, I wonder if could be like an ADP draft. Whoever's at ADP, that's kind of what I think. It looks kind of like what we're doing so far. Could be something around specific teams. We said, JT was saying there's some Ravens he wants to get more of. I was leaning into getting more elite tight ends. Maybe we're chasing some of those players we mentioned.
Yeah.
A-Chan was my number 1 guy I wanted more of.
That's true. Oh yeah, I overlooked that one. I'd already scrolled down.
And Bowers was up there on yours, right?
Yep, Bowers was one of mine.
Adding up. It's all coming together.
Hartman, did you stay in your excess puppy or did you leave the room?
Oh, I left the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not still doing it. Yeah.
So how many puppies have you done so far, Hartman?
The puppy 2, like
Yeah.
15, 14. I've done 14 of them.
14. Okay.
Yeah. How many are you guys at? Or have you guys not done them yet?
Which one is that? What were you asking about?
How many of this tournament have you done? The puppy 2.
Only a couple. Only maybe like 5 or 6, 7, somewhere in there.
I've done 26.
Woo. Maybe I'm more than that. Let me
Wow.
check. I don't think I've done more because I was in Vegas all weekend and you can't draft there, which I was kind of wanting to not do much anyways while I was there. Puppy 2. Yeah, this is my 7th one.
I tried something new though. I readjusted my ranks, and then I started 3 at one time, and I clicked auto purposefully, and then I looked to see how the teams turned out, and then I readjusted my ranks in my limits. I realized that in my ranks, just naturally, and I think I've described this before, but like where I have tight ends ranked in like kind of like groups and tiers, I'd come out of drafts if I put the auto on the puppy, I'd come out of drafts with like 2 super late tight ends like Juwan Johnson and let's just say, I don't know, whoever else like that goes after him. And so I kind of had to adjust my ranks to make sure I'm still getting some of those tight ends throughout the draft. So I went ahead and did that. I adjusted because what I would normally do is I would just draft and then I would IKB my own ranks and pull up a tight end over like a skill position player or like a QB. But I intentionally now went through and like fixed my rankings a little bit to be more more fidelity to like where the tight ends actually should go. And now I'm curious. I'm gonna be rerunning and like autopiloting a few more puppies just to kind of test out how my ranks like draft teams, because it all comes from my corgi. Did I tell you guys about that corgi that I drafted? I accidentally autoed it.
Oh yeah, I think you showed that on stream, right?
I accidentally autoed my corgi because I fell asleep, and it drafted off my ranks, and the team is like insanely good, except for the fact that there's one tight end and it's Juwan Johnson.
Oh,
so now I'm testing my ranks again by like seeing how good of teams I can draft if I do like 3 or 4 puppies at a time and just let it auto. And the like the first ones that I went through are pretty good. There's not as much correlation as you'd expect, but I had one team that was Jalen Hurts with AJ Brown, and I had another one that was like Jordan Love double stacked. So like there is some natural like stacking that happens up, which is kind of interesting just to see. But I end up, the teams aren't bad. They're just not as correlated as I'd like. And then the tight ends were just way too late. So I had to pull those guys up.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And like, so did you try to
definitely
in general
RB.
did you in general try to just move tight ends up, or did you pick like specific ones to like target or something?
Yeah, I moved, so like the tight ends that I already liked, I maybe moved them 2 or 3 spots ahead so that they would be more in line with ADP, just not to be behind another receiver or something. And then in general, like if there was a group where I had like maybe 4 or even 6 tight ends all in a stack, I just moved either parts or whole of that stack up to where it should be, to that it would get drafted. And so I wouldn't be taking like my 7th receiver before I have like even one tight end.
That makes sense, yeah.
But we'll see. I have to retest it, but it's kind of fun just for this puppy to see how because there's some people on in Twitter in the space who do best ball drafts, and like for instance for like the mini Dalmatian, they just like set the auto and did all 101 like autoed, and so I never like preferred that method because like I love drafting the teams, like that's like my favorite part, of course. So I guess what it comes down to is just like, can these ranks like still, for certain tournaments where I just want to like take some of my like human element out of it and then like let the ranks draft and see like what happens.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I do think that's interesting, and like it is cool just to see like how it'll happen, how it'll work. But I don't know. I guess like for me, I just like drafting the teams. Like that's like the whole.
I know.
That's like the whole point. So like, I'd rather not like just for me personally, I'd rather not waste the money on like auto teams, because it just takes away from like teams that I could draft. I do
100%.
get that with stuff closing so fast, you can't possibly max it.
Yeah. I'm only doing it for time box and for small dollar, and it's more of a test of a thesis to see like how good my ranks do, and then what I want to do is like I want to come back in week 15 or 16 and be like, dang, I only auto drafted 10 teams in this one puppy, but like it's a 40% advance rate, or like it's a 0% advance rate, or maybe one of the teams is in like a finals, and I'm like, wow, like maybe I shouldn't be drafting so many teams like, by hand. Maybe I should just let my ranks kind of like do some more magic. But I've also been kind of inspired because there's like other sports where people will draft best ball teams purely off ranks. I just think that football is like there's too much nuance and there's too many rounds to make it work like I think most effectively. But for instance, in golf, like I've seen people draft purely off ranks and then they make they'll like double or triple the field like advance rate and then have some nice finals teams because there's just less stacking involved.
Well, but with golf, there's no like you're just picking the best player, right? So
yeah, it's player takes, to an extent.
That's like NBA or WNBA too. There's no position, right. So it's like because that's the real downside of autoing. Well, like you were saying with your tight end situation, right? Like in golf or basketball or something, that's not. They're just all flexes. That's not a concern, right? So
sure,
I would think the carryover would maybe be more if you compare it to like hockey, baseball, football, where positions matter, and like golf, NBA are kind of like a whole different thing to me. Maybe that's not the right way to think of it, though. I don't
no,
know.
That's true.
Just because the position's not mattering, or they're not being any positions.
Yes,
I guess what would be even the upside of doing it versus just autoing off your ranks? If you're like, this is the 10th best guy, like maybe just a diversity of portfolio for a big portfolio. But other than that, is there really any upside to manually drafting your team in a golf or basketball? Maybe team stacking, but like golf, is there any benefit?
Maybe you'd say, well, you could like course stack where you're like, okay, I've got 4 golfers who are really good at links courses. Let me take 4 golfers who are good at like playing in Florida. There's some like small nuances to it, but no, you're in general, like I'd say you're pretty accurate with like the fact that there's no difference in the positions, and then you could just draft off ranks. And that's I think another part of football, besides the positions, besides the stacking, is that you want to see and maybe predict what other people are going to do, versus like you were saying in golf or maybe NBA, you just take the next best available player to some extent.
Mm-hmm. Where like if you don't have a tight end in round 14 and it's like, oh, like there's a great running back or receiver here, you're probably still not taking them because you're like, I need a tight end, right? So like,
yeah. But maybe there's some like human error even still where you're like, oh, I do need a tight end, but in reality, it's still like you wouldn't know, but the benefit is still to take that and keep pushing tight end. Maybe some drafters might say, and this is kind of maybe what I think of as like the naive best ball drafter is like, okay, or maybe the naive fantasy football drafter is like, I filled out my starting roster, before I get to my bench. Like, oh, I should draft a quarterback and a tight end before I draft my 5th wide receiver because it's like a starting roster type of like approach, which is very traditional and like a naive like fantasy football, strategy that we've all made fun of for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
unless you're playing the eliminator. That's the eliminator strat.
Yeah. I'm kind of with Hartman. I don't know if I'd enjoy like, the whole drafting off rank things. Just like I don't know if I'd like me personally, I don't think I could ever use like, the leg up tool where it's like suggesting, and I know you don't have to pick it, it's just a suggestion, but I don't know. It's part of the fun of it, right? Like I'm a very competitive person, and at the end of the year, I want to see how much did I get right and how much did I get wrong.
I mean, if you told me the leg up tool increases my profits by 10%, I'll gladly go pay for it.
No doubt.
Yeah, I was actually thinking they have a thing right now. If you have their just like regular subscription, you can do like a free trial of it for like a week. I
think that it's extended through for like the next like 5 or 6 days. I've been thinking about that. I just don't know if I have time to like, you want to optimally download it so you have a 5-day window where you can draft the most teams possible.
Yeah, like I was kind of thinking about like if I just set it up to do it on the weekend or something.
Yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. I did a stream with Sacrilegious in Bendels last Monday, and I guess it's been like 8 days now. but he used the tool. We used the tool while we drafted, and it changed my perspective on drafting just a little bit, enough where I was like, this is interesting. I think this could be like a future part of the game that's going to expand, and you have to like be aware of. What it really came down to was that not only because last year they had the leg up sidekick tool. This year they've incorporated sims into it, and that's like the next level where I think you really start to get different outcomes than just drafting off of ranks with a standard giving you the next best pick tool. Like having access to simulated seasons, I think is pretty powerful. But at the end of the day, you know, it still comes down to like what you're simulating, I guess.
I didn't know
Because
that.
the
I
inputs.
did hear something about them including that in there now, and that's something I've always wondered about because it's like, I don't know, I don't know anything about like, you know, simming large, portions of the season and stuff like that to get, the median outcomes. But I just wonder how accurate could you really be in something like that with football because there's just so much freaking variance and injuries and guys that come out of nowhere to steal somebody else's job and whereas like maybe a sport like basketball or something, where it's a lot more predictable, minutes equal money or whatever, the old saying was that Al used to say way back in the day on his stuff or whatever. I I don't know.
Well, so I think how they do that is they like manually input or obviously like use formulas and stuff to get it, but they'll get like what's the percentage chance this guy gets a 0 this year? What's the percentage he's the monster breakout, right? And like and see that's where like the sims kind of matter who's doing it too though, because the company is like picking the inputs, picking like what is the likelihood that this guy has that breakout season? Is it 10%, 15%, whatever? So that's where like I think the human error, like there of how they're projecting or viewing the player could come in. But I do
Mhm.
think they try to account for that, like what is the average percentage injury chance for like Bijan given workload, age, blah blah blah, this, that, the other. Like, I think they do try to factor that in, but
Mhm.
it's all, like, percentages, then it's like, "Oh, like, you do it this many times, that's, like, the likely outcome," right? Um, but I do
Makes
think
sense.
that's,
It
like, you gotta
people that's
trust
way
people
smarter
do
at
it.
math than me, I guess.
When, like, you look at The Sims too, I do think for season long, it's tougher because, like, I don't know, like, let's say last year The Sims told you Chris Godwin and Rashee Rice were the best picks on the board, then they, tear their knees or whatever, it's not a one-week thing. But The Sims are I mean, those are what ruined, like, DFS. Like, good luck winning, like, a DK tourney or something without using, like, the solver and stuff like that these days. I mean, there's, like, no way. Like, you
Yeah.
have to sim it and do, like, a 150 max or else you're not even gonna, like, compete realistically.
Mhm. Yeah.
Which I
And I
think
think
that's
it would be easier to do in, a 1 week scenario or whatever versus just I don't know. I'm not knocking their
Most
tool.
most
I've never
definitely.
used it. I've never experimented with it. So I'm not knocking it. I don't know. It almost kind of takes the fun out of it to me. I guess I'm like I know the one of all the, bigger, more well-known guys. I guess I kind of side with Liam, where he says that he kind of likes just, going off of his own vibes and doesn't necessarily think that like all these different, suggestive tools that are coming in are like a good thing for best ball. Like, are we going to get to a, scenario like DFS, like you were talking about, where say
right.
5 years from now, like the average Joe can't, get on here and spend $50 and draft a handful of teams. And if they know a lot about the league and stuff, have a decent chance at like hitting it, where it's all like, the Sharks are the only ones who really have a chance with all their tools and stuff. Whereas to me, that's part of like what is right now so great about best ball is like, sure, like people that's playing thousands and thousands of dollars in tournaments in hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of teams. yes, we definitely have like, a greater chance of winning or doing well versus somebody who's only playing, let's say, a handful of, tournaments, let's say $100 worth of tournaments. But at the same time, I do think the way best ball is right now, realistically, those people could very easily win, not easily, those people could in fact win a tournament because it's not solved. We don't know anything, about how the year is going to shake out and all that. We're not even in the camp right now. There's still so
For
much
sure.
that we'll learn by now to the end of August when the season's getting ready to start. So I don't know. That's just kind of my stance. Like I'm not knocking it. I guess if it ever got to a point where I really felt and other people who I trusted their opinion told me that like, hey, this like really is an advantage, then I would maybe probably consider giving in and changing my stance, but I don't like it.
It comes
Yeah.
back down to like the argument of why not to just auto draft your teams? It's fun to draft your teams, and so part of the using the tool is like you're not actually drafting your teams anymore. You're just kind of following um what the any tool or even a specific tool would suggest, right? So
Well, I do think like season long, there's enough variance that I don't really think it can be like DFS where it gets fully taken over by like bots. I think there's
right.
too much variance in a season long game for that to happen. I think in a weekly game it did happen, but I think season long there's too much variance overall.
That makes sense too. Because imagine, like you were saying, in a weekly slate, there's a lot of knowns that can be like factored in.
Mhm.
But in a season long slate, the unknowns where if something happens week one that changes the entire rest of the season, like how many of the sims have accurately factored that in versus what if it happens in week two? What if it happens in week three? What if so there's so many steps playing out through weeks 1 and 14. If the easiest one would be to say, okay, Jamar Chase tears an ACL in week 1 or 2 or 3, or like what are the different outcomes between all of that? And I think even in 1,000 simulations, like you wouldn't potentially capture. I don't know. Is 1,000 simulations enough to capture all of those scenarios? Or every variation of an ankle sprain, a high ankle sprain, a grade 2 versus a grade 1 versus a grade 3 in a certain week or not. So I think at some point the math can get complicated enough and like maybe the tools can get sophisticated enough to solve more. But at the current level, I think there's just a lot of things to factor in. It's hard to know though. We'll start to see as like season over season how these tools change the landscape.
See, like I was kind of interested in trying it because I think it could like give some interesting ideas or maybe like some different plays where I wouldn't usually use them. But like I think overall, like buying them, using them, they're more to help beginner level players at the current state of like the auto assistance or whatever it's called. Like I don't think for an experienced player who's like any of us, I don't really think it'd be super helpful. Because I don't know. I guess the construction part and all that is kind of like all it's doing. Maybe with the Sims, it's a little bit more, but I still think it's so early on that I think an experienced drafter can still compete equally or maybe even like better than the Sims. Because I've seen some of the Sim videos, like not the Sims, but like the ETR tool, where
Yeah.
I felt like pretty unimpressed with the teams that it built.
Yeah.
Just like who it was recommending and stuff. I didn't, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just didn't seem to line up well with the composition of the teams and whatnot.
Well, and I haven't actually seen any videos where like they were using it or anything, but I do listen to what's the one show that Pat's on sometimes, Ship Chasing, with
Mhm.
like Mike Shope in them, and I've heard him even say before, that like, yeah, the sidekick's always recommending stuff to me, and I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I get it, but then it's like I get what you're saying about like it's probably better designed for like newer players or something just to help them with roster construction. But then I'm like, well, probably the newer players aren't spending the kind of money that they're going to want to, really invest in that.
True.
I don't know.
I think
Well, I mean, newer bad player, bad players would be the other.
Or maybe some rich
Maybe they're
players
not
just,
new.
that maybe they're new, but they're not small players. They're wanting to spend a few
Gotcha.
$1,000s, but they just
Sure.
have money to burn. And so like, yeah, like let me buy this smart tool to help me out. Like I guess I could see that.
The argument I would make for like, we'll have to see because only time will tell, but my counter argument would be, what if there are things that the bots, the sims, the tools can suggest over time that change the way we fundamentally play the game. Like our roster construction is somewhat like backwards looking, where it's like what has worked in the past, what team structures are viable, what do people typically draft, whether it's a 2-5-9-2, now we're on a 3-6-6-3, now we want to do a 3-5-7-3, now we want to take court like certain in these range. I just wonder if there's like something we're just missing because we're so like, even only, best ball's been around for however long, but if we think strictly about Underdog, this current game we're playing, this current tournament structure for Best Ball Mania, right? We're 6 years in, we've only got 5 years of data. Could it be so early still that there's like fundamental aspects that we haven't like completely solved, that the Sims might get us to quicker, that we might take longer on our own to figure out? And I don't know what that would be yet, but you could just imagine that there might be some more rules where we used to say, okay, take 4 receivers through 7 rounds and things like that. Maybe there's more nuanced fundamental strategies that like get incorporated from using these tools, or just, over time in general, but maybe the tools get us there faster.
Well, I mean, even just look at the last couple of weeks, like everyone, maybe not everyone, but I think a lot of people now are taking a third QB on stacked because old Pat Crane at Leg Up said the Sims recommend it, right? That's like kind of like exactly what you're saying, right? Like one of those things that maybe we wouldn't have really found it, but the Sims found it. And then it's like now that's like a viable, now it's
I
like
did not hear
strategy.
that. That's interesting.
No, that's exactly what I was alluding to.
Yeah. Yeah, Pat Crane and the boys at Leg Up. They were the Sims all say you need a third QB no matter what, stacked or not. You better get
Steve. Steve and
big
his sister,
QB,
they're real big on that. They're kind of the ones that got me, or Steve got me when I was talking to him one night, realizing that I need to be willing to take an unstacked QB more than what I do, which before was very, very rarely.
Yeah, I think Steve was the first person that had talked with me about that earlier this season that I started to listen to and actually do it. So they've definitely been, Steve and Meg have been a proponent of that strategy. I think it's just worked for them historically.
Yeah, them and Leg Up, they got to me because like I noticed, I looked at my builds and it's like early on so many 2 QB builds.
I know, right?
It's like progressively like more and more. I'm like, why are they all 3 QB now? Like what happened?
And we've been talking about this all year in 2025, the debate versus the 2 versus 3 quarterbacks. I think it's going to be one of those things that pendulums back and forth year to year. If someone wins this year with 2 quarterbacks, we're all going to see the light and come back to Jesus kind of thing. But then the next year, 3 quarterbacks wins and we're like, oh, it's 3 late quarterbacks. And then an elite quarterback wins. Oh, it's an elite quarterback. So I think that one thing that we could be doing naturally as humans is like chasing what worked recent and having that kind of like hindsight bias, where maybe these Sims and tools could be more general or forward looking on like larger sample size, and that might help a little bit.
That's a really good point, and I was talking about that the other day. It's like I still think that is, if I had to pick the one area where I think as a community we make the biggest mistake, it is exactly that we're always, chasing last year, or like last year, so many people were busted because the year before that, 0 RB smashed, 2 years ago. And so like naturally all the talk I remember last summer was zero RB, zero RB. The Spike Week guy, Eric, he was famously out there every stream, like swearing he's not going to take a running back before round 5 or whatever, you know. And then what happened? The running backs were healthy. Some of the top guys smashed. Now you see everybody wanting to, you know, load up on running backs or whatever. So, like, I think as a community, that is probably the biggest thing that we get wrong. And like that's one thing I am specifically trying to do this year is I am not thinking anything about the past or like what happened last year, even on a team level, much less than a best ball roster construction level. Speaking of which, before we go over these teams, I'll leave this thought with you guys. I was just talking with my buddy Mark today, and I've noticed over the last week that a lot of my teams, partially because I'm so in on elite quarterback, y'all know how I am with Lamar, but I also draft Allen, I also draft Jaden, and I'm finding that I have been ending up with more than I would have thought teams that end up being a 2-7-7-2. If you have 2 tight ends that you feel really good about and you have an elite quarterback and then, you know, a backup quarterback that you feel really good about, what is y'all's thoughts on that? And I didn't really purposely do it. I guess it's just kinda like so most of my running back rooms will be like 3 running backs of some sort that I feel really good about. I know I can count on them early, late, whatever, all year. And then 4 running backs that are all those last 4 or 5 rounds of the drafts. You know, you're just taking them in case of the upside when somebody gets hurt or something like that. And kind of same way with the receiver room. You know, the receiver room will be like 4, maybe 5 guys up top that I feel really good about. Then some of those later round spike weeks to where I feel like the running back and receiver rooms are pretty well balanced and they're deep, but then I still feel good about my QB room. I still feel good about my tight end room. I don't know. What are y'all's thoughts on that specific roster construction?
Um, I think it can be pretty good. I've done a decent amount of 2-7-7-2s. I think the only thing I've noticed that like can be an issue is I think sometimes you maybe kind of like lie to yourself and say tight end is good enough. Or at least I do. Like I'm like, oh yeah, tight end's good enough. I can stop at 2, and then at the end I'm like tight end's clearly the weakest part of this team.
Yeah.
Where like maybe like the 7th running back or receiver, especially if I start maybe a little heavier capital on one of them. It's like, well, maybe I should have just thrown that on like Juwan Johnson or something like that, just to give me a couple more usable weeks for that position.
Yeah, I hear you. I will say most of them tend to be running backs that I feel okay about. It'll be something like, I mean, like maybe like I don't know, like an Andrews and somebody else. Or I know I have a couple teams where it's like an elite quarterback, and then I did like the Kittle and Hawkinson team. Since Kittle is kind of like moving more towards that right side of the board, they're kind of lining up where you can almost, you know, put both of them on the team now. I don't know. It was just something I was I specifically told my friend Mark today. We were texting and I was like, I feel like I'm ending up with quite a few of them recently, and I don't know if it's good or bad, but I like the teams when I'm looking at it. I don't know. Maybe I can find one here in a minute to show you guys. Real quick,
Yeah.
what's up, Green Bean? Green Bean was our first winner last night of the
Nice.
viewer appreciation thing that I'm doing. We ended up drafting a
Nice.
BBM because we couldn't get the sprint to fill. Good to see you back in here, my man. But how about this? Y'all want to run through these teams real quick, and then
Yeah,
y'all want to try something? We can rip a couple of the rookie sophomore things together if y'all want.
for
Put our
sure.
heads together. See, I'm interested in playing around with that contest. It's totally new to me. Um, let's see. Hartman, I'll tell you what, since you got boxed out the draft, we'll let you go through the teams for us. This is mine we're starting off with.
All right. So it's a 2-4-8-3. Is that right? Yeah.
2493.
2-4-9-3. Okay. The numbers are low.
Learn math.
I can't read it. I never learned how to read. So at QB you have Caleb and Drake May. I think that's totally good with 2. Could add a third, but you're definitely fine with those 2. Huge upside. maybe a little risky just because you're hoping for a leap, but I think that's fine. A-Chain, Henry, Brees Hall, Amarian Hampton, crazy strong
That's
RB
sick.
room. Yeah, I mean that's like that's a super strong RB room. Even with 4, it's like that's all different. Or no, you have Hampton and A-Chain on the same bye week, but that's the only overlap. And then just all like should be workhorse guys, especially top 3. And then Ridley, Rome, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Williams, Cedric Tillman, Xavier Legette, Demario Douglas, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett. Yeah, I mean, I think receiver looks okay with all the volume, right? And then
Yeah, we just tried to
Hawkinson,
attack it
Henry,
with
Juwan.
volume.
You got some
Yeah.
nice
Tight
correlation
end
there
looks really
too.
good.
Yeah, tight end looks good. I don't mind the first. Let me see the first 3 receivers.
Yeah. Well,
It was Ridley, Rome, and Mooney.
Yeah, I guess it gets shallow pretty deep, but if Kyle Williams hits for this team, then that'll come in clutch. And you got some depth behind it.
Then I just tried to take some of the spike week guys I like Tillman and Leggett, Keenan Allen. Lockett's kind of my steady Eddie at the end to help hold it in.
I feel like, I mean, I guess I like the build. I think maybe for me personally, like the Hawkinson pick, I would have maybe tried to keep going at receiver. I know he is one of your guys, though. You obviously are really into Hawkinson, and I didn't really see what was available. Maybe there weren't any receivers you even liked, so that could definitely be the case. But that was just the
Thinking
one
back,
thing
I
where
think it was kind of there about that. Yeah, because so Downs, I was actually going to pick Downs. But
Yeah.
Downs went right before it. I had him queued up. My original plan was I wanted to go Mooney and then Downs, but then when Downs went, as y'all know, I could not take another running back.
You couldn't
By the way,
resist.
Chad, it was 4 running backs. We could not draft more than 4 running backs. Don't think any of y'all actually guessed it, but we pulled it off. But yeah, I didn't want to go Cup, and I didn't really want to go Ibuka, so I was like, whatever.
Oh, you like
I'll
Buka?
just grab Hawkinson. I mean, no, I like him, but just right there, I didn't really want to do it.
Well, you
I
can't
just
resist.
figured I'd
like
get
a tier
Hawkinson,
fall.
and then my thinking was Hawkinson to me is like, I don't know, and we all have our different takes and stuff, but it's like I put Hawkinson and Andrews like above. I think Andrews and Hawkinson will have quite a bit more consistency and be better than like an Ingram and even a Warren and a Kraft. And so like when I don't take when I don't take like Bowers or Kittle, just me personally, I do try to either grab like a Hawkinson or sometimes even a Kraft or like an Andrews, because I'm really trying to stay away from like I just feel like it's so easy to want to say I can totally punt tight end and take 3 tight ends, let's say rounds 15 through 18. But then I did that a couple times, and I always end up looking at my tight end room and like, this is just gross. There's no, I don't feel like for me personally, there's any upside there. There's players that I'm just like, if they were my second and third tight end and my tight end 1 was better, I would feel good about it. So I don't know. That was kind of my thinking with that.
Okay, so I have to admit, on my team, I queued Jalen Coker from my phone, and then it auto drafted Taj Brooks. I don't know how it happened.
Position limit.
Chris
I
did
looked
not
at the team afterwards. I was like, I didn't even want Taj Brooks on this team. I wanted Jalen Coker, and then Coker goes to pick after me. I don't know how it happened.
You failed.
I know. I failed the
Run
only
through the
mission.
team for us. Run through the team for us, though, Hartman.
Okay, so Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers. Crazy QB room. Oh, you got Rodgers. He had double week 9. That makes sense. And then Saquon, Chase Brown, Kenneth Walker, Dylan Sampson, Taj Brooks. Pretty strong RB room. Obviously, you have your top guy up top, but then 2 clear lead backs and then 2 contingent guys.
Double Bengals.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even realize.
Completely unintentional. I tried to get Coker.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Receiver, Judy, Reed, Higgins, Burden, Christian Kirk, Romeo Dobbs, Alec Pierce, Calvin Austin. I think the receiver room actually looks pretty fine overall. You're kind of open on that rookie upside, but
yeah, I got I'll say I got sniped, but when you have Higgins and Kirk, it's not like you're the primo setup for Stroud. But I was trying to target Stroud as my QB3, and I was trying to target Geno as my QB3, and so Rodgers was a fallback. I knew I was going to be taking 4 running backs, so I felt good to take Fields with Hurts, and then say I've got one more free spot to go with QB since I'm going to only take 4 running backs, and then so I kind of thought I was going to be doing more of like a 3-4. 9-2 or 8-3 build, but then I also took Bowers early, so that kind of like, I didn't feel like I had to take another tight end.
Chris, I know you're a Texan fan too, and I was been saying this on my stream some. I like what you did, even though you didn't get CJ with the Higgins and the Kirk pick. I actually pair those two up a lot.
They're pretty
And
cheap.
my thinking, well, they're cheap, and my thinking is this: like, I feel like our offense is going to be way better this year, and I feel like everything that the team is telling us, from CJ's going to have more control to all the receivers that they went out and brought in, everything they're telling us, right, is like we want to go from this old we're going to run to no, we're going to throw the ball, we're going to let CJ go to work this year. At least that's what it seems like to me. And I feel like there's going to be almost every week 2 wide receivers from the Texans that end up having what you would consider a usable or a good fantasy score. And if everybody's healthy, then obviously the 3 that's going to be on the field the most is Kirk, Higgins, and Nico. And Nico's always going to be that, that one guy. He's always going to be one of them. So I just feel like when you pair Higgins and Kirk, their price is cheap enough that in some way you're almost probably guaranteeing that you get one good score between the 2 of them a week. And so I actually end up doing that a lot.
So are you out on Jalen Noel then?
I'll take him sometimes. I don't draft him as much because I just really think that, like, so here's my thing with him is it's really going to take an injury to get on the field, I think, a lot, or to the point that maybe he's usable
more than like 30-40%. Like for him to get to like an actual role, I think like 60+% range, he'd need an injury, which it could happen because he essentially could fill in for any of the starters that we're assuming. So I don't think he's like a dead pick, but I've just stopped taking him as much. Also, I figured out why it took Taj Brooks over Coker. I queued Coker. The time it would have auto drafted him, I set my positional limits over the weekend so I could auto draft some teams. So then it took Brooks because I'd set it to 8 receiver max.
That makes sense.
Dirty figured it out.
Well, it was still fun. Even if you
if this team wins, then it's an auto. Taj Brooks is the Bucky Irving of 2025, and you actually need Chase Brown to get him there.
All right, so let's hop in some of these rookie sophomore things now. Chris, I know you said you did a lot of them last year, right?
Not like a ton. Like I never maxed it, but I did enough to get a feel for it.
And Hartman, you said this is you're not really into this contest, or you weren't last year, but this year you are.
I didn't do any last year so far. I'm too deep ever. It seems all right. I don't dislike it. It's kind of interesting.
How do you generally play it from, or what do you think is the proper play from the 4 spot? Like, obviously, if Jaden's there, we take him with one of them. I saw somebody take Jaden with the first pick today.
I personally have Jaden ranked 101 in this format.
Yeah.
I think there's just a scarcity. He'll hit the QB tab and then count the QBs you'd feel comfortable having.
Now, I will admit, as somebody who's totally new to this contest, I saw Jaden go at the 101. So then in my next slow draft, I got the 101, and I was like, let me try that. And so I took him at the 101 in a different one also.
It comes down to like replaceability. It's like Genty to Hampton to Bucky. What's the difference? Versus, and obviously with Jaden Daniels, yes, there's other quarterbacks that are still there, like May and Caleb. But I think it just comes down to Jaden Daniels is like head and shoulders above. Like he's an elite quarterback. There's not like other elite quarterbacks in this format.
All right, so clearly we're gonna go like BTJ. What are y'all thinking, Lad, or do we want to grab a quarterback with BTJ or Bucky for a running back?
You make the call, Candyman. You're the expert.
So obviously BTJ. I think it's this early in the format. The ADPs haven't reset. It's kind of like at here, you're not forced to take Knicks. You can see what comes back around and double tap QBs on the way around. You could take Bucky if you think running backs are more scarce, which I do think. So like if you're comfortable with Bucky, it's him versus
This is the one
Hampton.
contest that I like Bucky in. That's what I was saying earlier.
Like click on the RB tab and then just see like what the next. So then it would have been like Hampton, and then it's another tier down to like Harvey, Henderson, Caleb, and then it's a huge tier down, in my opinion, where we're with our current information that we have. So I think getting one of the top tier running backs and one of the top tier, well, there's only one top tier quarterback, but it's like, the receivers, if you click on the receiver tab, they're even more replaceable. Like if I told you could only have one of Brian Thomas, or that like a whole 2 rounds later you could have T-Mac, like the difference is not, to me, like
yeah, and then even Rome, Golden, Burden.
I saw Kyle Williams go undrafted.
Wow.
So like that tells you like how how many receivers are viable late.
Yeah, receivers super deep in this. Well, especially because you get the tight ends too. So you have Bowers, Loveland, and Warren. Like
we have our one stud. So then, do we want to double tap QB here? Maybe like a McCarthy Penix.
I would typically double tap QB here because you just don't want to get left out without 2 startable guys.
That's kind of what I was thinking, because it might not come back to us. We might be, down to like the darts of the world if we don't do it here.
Yeah, this is kind of like, that's how, I mean, I've only done a couple, but like through 4 rounds, I've noticed like I got 2 QBs in both, and that was kind of what felt the best, because I think so. There's 6 or 7 starting QBs in this. 7, right? Because you got
7.
No, 6.
Is it
1, 2, 3, 4?
Well, 5 second years, and then
6.
Cam Ward.
6 if you include Ward.
Is it 6 or 7 with Ward?
I think it's 6 because there's the Ward. 5 last year, and then Ward's the only rookie that. I mean, you could maybe say like Shook. Maybe
no, it's
one.
And then there's the debate. So like then it's a debate. Do you just stick with 2 or do you take a third? So like here, I think Caleb Johnson has kind of a lot of value, but if you're more of a Cam guy, like it'd be a little bit of a reach for Cam, but not crazy. He'll probably be there with your next pick if you want to take someone else like Xavier Worthy or Dunze.
Who's the quarterbacks we have?
Oh wait, that wasn't. Oh no, that was you. No, it wasn't you.
Yeah, that was us. We just took Caleb Johnson.
The Harvey one.
What quarterback do you have? What were they?
I mean, you're down to
on the team, but
Penix and McCarthy, but we got to do something quick.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead.
I'm just gonna click Rome. I don't want to get stuck with somebody we don't want. Woo, these things go fast, boys.
I was trying to see if we had like a stack or something, but it would have been lit up.
For Penix, there's no stacking partners. For McCarthy, there's really none, but you could go Felton late.
None that you want to draft, probably. I would say for these, almost like stacking isn't really like that big of a necessity, I guess. I don't know.
It's a little bit undervalued though, because it's still a large field tournament with 200 people in the finals, and so like there is some benefit to being able to like outstack your opponent who has the exact same quarterback as you.
What do y'all think here? Y'all want to go with a running back like Tootin? What do y'all think?
Who are your 2 that you have?
The 2 that we have is Caleb Johnson.
I would sit on those 2 because you only have to start 1. I would just look for best available flex, and so it's whoever you like best between Higgins and then those other.
Go Higgins with the first pick. Anything else jump out at you?
I'd probably grab a running back here just because it's getting really thin and we can load receivers more.
Who you like?
Higgins?
Talk to me. Blue, Tate,
Tracy Tootin. Tracy Tootin, either one.
Yeah, Tracy or Tootin, I would lean.
Let's go Tootin for the supreme upside if he gets the role.
Well,
some have told me that he is going to be this year's Bucky Irvin. I forget who told me that. It wasn't
Last year,
Nick.
though.
Nick was saying Samson's going to be this year's Bucky Irvin. So
It
somebody the
could
other
have been
day
me.
was it might be.
Tootin's
One
Bucky
consideration.
Irving if he was athletic. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry,
Go ahead.
Hartman. Go ahead.
I was just saying Tootin's Bucky if he was athletic. But go.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So then, do we want to
Faster,
just
more
leave
athletic.
it with just these two QBs, or do we want
So
to
then
get
the
into
question
like the
becomes:
darts?
do you tack on the late QB? And if you do, you might as well get different and take one really late. And I know you're kind of you're not opposed to going with what's his
Milrow?
name? I can't think of it. Milrow, right?
Milrow, yeah.
So I would take Milrow in the last round if you're down for that. Some people do 3 running back and stop. So I've seen that be viable. I think ours are strong enough, but you could always grab a 4th.
We're
if there's
back
someone
on
you
the
like.
clock here. Y'all want to go with another?
I personally would lean towards like Warren or Blue.
I'd go Warren Blue. Those two is what I'd pick too. Yeah.
How about both of them then? We got 2 picks.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Ray Davis, I don't hate that either. He seems to be undervalued on the current ADP. Like, why does he go after Benson and Garindo in this format versus Best Ball Mania where he goes above them, right?
Yeah. Well, the other one that was weird too. I noticed. The other one that looked weird was Adabu. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
And Milrow, at least it looks like right now, isn't being drafted a lot so far. So
I've never seen him drafted.
It could be a very, very different play. It's a season-long format where even if it takes him to week 8 or whatever 9 to start playing, we still got 2 other quarterbacks.
I guess the only argument would be: is there any quarterback there that could cover your bye weeks a little bit better? But
really, because there's no guarantee that Shuck or Dart will even really be playing that early.
And then take a
we'll
look
leave him up. Let's see. Do we like any running backs or receivers better?
Look at the bye weeks on your receivers real quick, because that could be the only factor. Because you got to start 2 of those.
8, 6, 11, 5.
You could stop with those 4, but it's not a lot of builds stop with 4. Most have minimum 5. Wide receiver tight end.
Out there to me.
Coker, Knoll.
Coker goes undrafted a ton. I think he's a smart pick.
We'll go Coker.
Adonai Mitchell too, kind of an equal dart throw. So with Coker,
these things come fast.
with Coker and Mitchell, they don't always get drafted, but I think they have a lot of good a good opportunity. And then filter for just the wide receiver tight ends, and get rid of the running backs. If you scroll down a little bit more, I don't advocate like taking these tight ends, but I think like a Troy Franklin. Or that's kind of like the end of the list. It's interesting to me. Like I said, Felton earlier, but I wouldn't really do that. But like to me, it's like you have Bo Nix, you could go if you miss Pat Bryant, you could go Franklin, and then Knowles not really getting drafted every time. Mason Taylor's definitely not getting drafted every time. For running backs, it's even crazier. So like switch to the running backs. So I've started to think maybe it'd be smart to take some late running backs, like maybe get 3 or 4 running backs and make like 2 of your picks your last picks.
Even drafted. He would have been a smart pick.
Right. Samson, Jarquez Hunter barely gets drafted. And then scroll down, he's way down there. Hunter's down there. Shipley, Giddens, Brooks, all of these guys are going undrafted.
So, I'm almost wondering with the way it's set up and you only have to start 1 running back. I want to play around, I think, with some teams where I take a running back who we feel really good about, maybe like a Bucky or maybe like a Hampton, and then just like not draft another one until maybe like the last 3 picks, just start tacking on 3 of those guys, especially if they have a late bye week. I don't remember what Bucky and Hampton's bye weeks are off the top of my head, but I know this was the first time I did one live, and I think I've just decided that whatever rookie sophomore drafts I do, I think I want them to be slow drafts because 4 people on a 20-second clock, man, it's like no sooner than you make your pick.
I love it
on the damn clock again. At least until I get now, if I really get into the contest and I have a better feel for who I like where, then maybe I might hop back in some more. But
so that's like the scarcity part that I was trying to explain earlier about why you should take 2 QBs through 4 rounds or get 3 QBs as soon as you can is because there's really no viable QBs in the second half of the draft. But then undrafted, there's a ton of receivers who are going to be either the wide receiver 3 on their team or could win that role or are still interesting, like maybe even a Tesla. And then the running backs, it's just like it's an infinite list of contingent upside running backs. So like, I think that the strategies that worked the best last year was early QB and then hero running back. And I think the build that has won each of the last 2 years was a 3-3-6, or maybe one of the years it was a 2-4-5. Does that make sense? No, it would have been 2-3-4-5. Does that make sense? Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah, that
so,
adds up. Yeah.
So I think the minimum receivers you'd want is 5, and then you most of the time want to have three quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's interesting to me because I at least just doing the couple, I would have assumed 2 quarterbacks was the way to go. Like 2 just locked in guys. If you can get Jaden, great. But if you get Caleb May or something, just call it good and take another shot at a running back or receiver. I guess that was kind of how I was thinking of it, but maybe 3 QB is kind of more the way to go if that's been.
I think it's viable. I don't think there's been enough slates to know for sure. And obviously it's the sample size of the quarterbacks that have hit. It's been so small because of the available options. Of course, if you had the nuts with Jaden Daniels last year, you probably could have just won it with him and any given other quarterback. What the arguments I've heard for 3 is that there's a lot of power in being able to ping pong in the playoff weeks where maybe Jaden Daniels is the guy you need the whole time. But if for some reason he gets outscored in week 15 or 16 by another rookie or sophomore, having them on your team as well would give you a really strong team to resist the pod luck. And then the other contributing factor is that in a best ball mania, a quarterback is a 7th of your score. Here, positional wise, here it's a 5th of your score. And so it's just it's worth so much more to have a good QB score to be able to win. And I don't think there was any team that placed anywhere that made any money in this format that didn't have Jaden Daniels. So you had to have the right quarterback to even finish the top, let's say 25 or 50.
That totally
hearsay.
Makes sense.
All hearsay.
The
data would prove me wrong, but that's just what I remember.
That makes total sense. I mean, because take Superflex. We have still all the normal positions as far as what positions we start in Superflex. And yet, we draft all the quarterbacks in the first 4 rounds just because quarterbacks outscore any position and we can start 2 of them. So, in a format where you have literally 1 quarterback, 1 running back, and then 2 wide receivers and tight ends in a flex. I mean, yeah, that makes total sense that you want as much quarterback firepower as you can have. And looking back on the rookies and the sophomores from last year and how they performed, I could totally see needing Jaden to do anything in that contest for sure.
I think the only maybe pushback to it would be so the QBs do account for a higher percentage of your score, but also I guess since it is rookies and sophomores, especially with receivers and running backs, I see them as a lot less sure bets where you get Caleb Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Jaden Daniels. If those guys don't get hurt, they're playing 17 games, right? And they're starting every single one. And maybe they disappoint, but hopefully not. But I think just those guys are so locked in, and then if you do 3 QBs, you only have 9 players to cover 4 starting spots every single week, right? So it's I just wonder if that extra dart at RB or receiver could be more valuable when the rookie or sophomore receivers might be a little bit more likely to, you're more likely to have a miss in there. You could have a big hit too.
Oh, yeah.
But it's more likely high variance, right? With those kind of guys. So where the QBs are maybe less high variance because those top 6 or 7 are starting 17 games if healthy, right?
That's a great point. I think last year's data is going to skew it because last year it came out before the NFL draft. So we didn't even know what team Jaden Daniels would be on. And then half the sophomores, you knew what team they were on, but then all the rookies, you'd be drafting a guy who goes undrafted in the NFL draft. All of a sudden, you have a dead roster spot with like a guy you thought might be. So you could imagine where we might have been drafting Devin Neal or Ollie Gordon if this contest had come out 2 months ago instead of now. So I think what you're saying about knowing which players are on which teams with the likelihood of starting all of these games or not probably makes a ton of sense, where you could take a stronger stand and say like, okay, no, I know these guys are going to start. Let me fill out the flex where I don't know. And then I would just think that going even further on that, you would want to scroll down and say like, okay, I got 2 QBs. I'm good. Let me go ahead and like scroll down and grab a Taj Brooks or a DJ Giddens who's going undrafted. But if I have that extra flex spot to spare, I might as well take someone that like is really going to like differentiate me. And then just assume I have the QBs right.
That is a good point. I didn't even think about that. The whole pre-draft versus post-draft. I guess that is like such a massive change because that kind of changes like everything. Right?
We didn't even know the bye week. So like having 2 QBs you could just lose them automatically because they're both the exact same bye week 14.
Yeah, I didn't think about that either because I didn't know about the contest last year. But I don't think I would have been as in on it in that format where
it was wild. Like, Troy Franklin was going like one of the like top 20 picks. I'm pretty sure. Really? It's been a year. I could be completely wrong. I'm pretty sure. I had a lot of Troy Franklin teams.
Only when you were in the rooms, that's when he was going top 20.
Oh shit.
That is really interesting though. Well, and I looked at the last. I was kind of curious. So like last year, there would have been 9 viable QBs.
There were more.
Like pre-draft at least, because I'm counting says like sophomores, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, A. Rich, and Will Levis. And obviously Levis and A. Rich bust, but
they did. I'm pretty sure Penix was like completely like super low owned too, because people just like he was drafted. I remember drafting Penix, but we thought he'd be like a Raider. We didn't know where he would go. We didn't know if he'd be a backup. So like I remember there were quarterbacks that like you had low confidence in. Bo Nix went super late. I think Bo Nix went after Franklin like in drafts because like people just didn't know where to draft him.
And Bo Nix, like I don't know what time of year that came out, but him and Penix both were pretty late risers in like process, right?
Yep.
Because they were both kind of looking like, oh, like they might sneak into the first around like combine time, and then by the time the actual draft got here, it's like, oh, they're going in the first. It's just which order are all these guys going to go in now, right?
Like, yeah, and last year, I think this is true, but people were still taking like Stroud and Anthony Richardson and Levis like ahead of Caleb Williams, just being like, oh, we know what the situation is. I'm pretty sure Caleb might have been going ahead of Levis, but that would be the only one.
Probably because he was like the guaranteed 101, right? Like Caleb, you do kind of almost have it like a sophomore last year. Like you don't know how good he's going to be, but you know what team he's going to play for, and like
I think you're right because we kind of knew he'd be a Bear. Maybe Jaden Daniels we were more confident in too because like he was definitely like he always was drafted. I'd venture to say that like there would be drafts for Penix when undrafted. I think probably not though because like you still kind of grab those guys.
I think when the draft came last year, it was like those top 3, like May, Jaden, and Caleb. They kind of separated, right? Like they were clearly like a different grouping than the other guys because the other guys all went like closer to like pick 10, 11, 12 range where like they were like 1, 2, 3 all in a row, right?
Yeah, May was I'm trying to think back. I could look at some of my old teams, I guess, but I think it might have been like, oh, you'd be like a ball knower if you took May ahead of Levis.
Oh yeah. That's great. But Levis though, like when you think back last year, even in the summer, like Levis was getting some hype because people were like, he can bomb it. Like, oh, they brought in Calvin Ridley. Like Levis was getting some legit.
They got hype, Hopkins.
Like, oh yeah, Hopkins. Forgot about that one. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. No. Yeah, he was getting real hype. Yeah.
I avoided that one. I was never big on Will Levis.
Yeah, I don't think
I was wrong about a lot. Don't get me wrong, but Will Levis I avoided. I just something about the guy. He was he was too goofy. He didn't really have that much, of a his college career. He really had like the 1 year where he kind of came out of nowhere and then boasted up the draft boards and just when I watched his tape, I don't know. I
That's
wasn't
how I
very
always felt about Pickett. I was always like, man, this guy just seems not like the guy.
No, I agree. He was a guy I was never really in on either that year.
It's easy to say now, of course, but it's like I was like, oh, okay, he's the greatest Pitt quarterback in recent history. Is that even enough to make it in the NFL? Probably not. It was all Jordan Addison at the end of the day.
In the Pickett year too, that was when like everyone was like, "This is the worst QB class ever." Like none of these guys even deserve to go in the first. And I remember it was like Malik Willis was like QB1 allegedly, and then he goes like later second round or something, right? And then Pickett's the only first round QB. Yeah.
And Pittsburgh probably doesn't do it if he wasn't in their home state, and so they
in their building, literally in their building. Yeah,
thought they knew him more than what they did, or thought maybe they could, turn him into something. But I don't know. Real quick, just so everybody knows, I'm sure you guys follow these friends of mine already, but if you don't for some reason, Chris the Candyman, he streams almost every night. Hartman, I don't think you really have a set schedule yet, do you? You're just kind of more on the weekends and when you have time, right?
Show up when I show up.
But in the description, you can find all of our links to X. In the description, you can find their links to their YouTube channel in the description, of course. What do you guys got coming up this week? Anything fun?
What do you got, Harmon?
Nothing planned at all. I'm gonna try to do a few streams this week. I'll try to do at least a few this week. I was kind of slacking.
According to Sir Nick Bach, and I just confirmed this with my sources, the Dalmatian is 90% filled. It is now 90% filled Dalmatian. So
hop in while you can.
I guess I'm doing 2 slows and 1 fast because I am not gonna stay up all night drafting Dalmatians, but I'll at least get probably 1 in fast.
Yeah.
I might just say screw it and do them all slow. I don't even like them, but if I'm doing 2 slows anyway.
I'm honestly I'm getting that point where it's like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
What'd you say? Or JT? I didn't
I thought I heard you say you don't like the Dalmatian.
Oh, I don't like slows. I don't like slows.
I hate
slows. Okay, I heard that.
But wrong. Like 2 versus 3 slows, like I might just do all 3 as slows.
I'm starting to be convinced I might just do them all slow because I feel like I'm not perfectly in the zone to draft a great Dalmatian right now. I'm like borderline falling asleep.
Yeah, no,
although I've always been a late night drafter. I don't know what it is. I think it's just because I'm still a little bit getting back into the swing of things. I've been firing off a bunch of puppies. Some of them have been good. Some have been all right. But
because on those though, like late night, even if you're a little tired or whatever, and you're like, oh, you're not totally paying attention, you just click whoever. It's like, oh, you're just kind of chilling and drafting. When you do a Dalmatian, like $100 draft, you're like, oh shit, I gotta like lock in, actually draft right now.
I kind of hate though with the slows, you lose so much EV in my mind, where it's like everyone has time to think about their builds. Sometimes you make a pick or two and you like, at least for me, it's like, oh, I forgot exactly what I was doing. I just clicked like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't love slows. I've never had a slow team progress well in tournaments. And I've never done a lot of slows, but I've done enough slows over the years, and I just haven't seen like any good results out of it. Maybe it's a sample size thing, but I hate having.
I'm very interested to track this year moving over to Underdog, because I've drafted all my volume on DraftKings the last 2 years, and there is no way, unfortunately, to name or even highlight, anything.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so one thing I have been doing is any draft that I do, a slow draft, as for the name, I always started off with a little capital S, just so I'll remember at the end of the year, because I want to look back and see, because I've always had to do at least 10 to 15 I always have anywhere from about 8 to 14 slow drafts going. because it's just the only way I can get in the amount of drafts that I
That's
want to
hell. Anything more than
no,
that.
if I no, yeah, that's why I said that specific range. If I
Yeah.
stay under 15 for me, then it's all right. I check them in the morning when I get up. I check them generally when I sit down to eat lunch or something, and then in the evening or whatever. You got 8 hours, so. But yeah, I don't like to get up in slow draft hell, so I try to keep it under 15, and but it's the only way I can get in the amount of drafts I want to get in, because I don't really have much time normally during the day before about 9 o'clock at night or so. I don't really have much time to sit down and do a draft.
No doubt.
But we want more drafts.
It's one way to do it. That's where I end up just like skipping certain contests that I don't feel strongly about. But yeah, I've done enough slows this summer to feel like I don't want to do more. But I think for this 3 max, it's kind of a different thing. And if I have 3 slows going, that's totally manageable. So I probably will just do them all slow.
Yeah.
I
all right, boys. Well, go ahead, Hartman.
I was just gonna say, if I have like a lot, I noticed I like kind of stopped caring. I just like pick whoever and
get
don't
this over with.
Yeah, like get them out of here. Yeah, exactly.
That's why my ideal range is I really like to be more at like just 8 or 9, something like that. Sometimes I'll get a few more if there's like a 10 max contest that I really want to max or something, and I can't get them all in live. Then at the end I might have to do 4 or 5, and temporarily I might be up at like 14 or something. But right now I'm pretty good because I haven't been entering any. I was working through the ones that I have, and I think I only have about 1, 2, 3. Well, I guess I got about 8 of them, but 3 of them will end quick. They're the rookie sophomore ones that I started up today, so those things will fly through.
See, those are kind of interesting as a slow, because you would rip them. Like you'd be
Yeah.
through the slow in like 2 days, right?
I think
2-3 days
that's
maybe.
how I'm gonna do them though. At least till I have a better feel of who I want where. Because that live one, it was like, man, no sooner than we're on the clock, we're back on the clock again, and no sooner than you're looking through the players, your time's about out.
Well, it's at like 25%, so I wouldn't expect much more than Thursday or Friday.
Thanks, Nick. We're glad you appreciate it. We had fun. Was just about to say, fellas, I think I'm gonna get out of here for the night. Assuming we'll be back again next week. Is fun as always. Love hearing you guys player takes. Love hearing your thoughts on roster construction and everything else that we get into. Chris did not complete the mission. He drafted a 5th running back. You are disqualified. I'm just
Fuck. I didn't even attempt it. I couldn't risk the EV.
Yeah, I did better than Hartman.
Oops, I didn't get in time.
Yeah. What are we doing, guys?
Do a build other than my normal? Oh, I didn't make it.
Oh, I didn't check the private chat. No. That was fun. Good drafts.
Yeah.
Good takes.
You guys have
always
a good
pleasure,
night.
guys.
Well, we'll see you around. I'm sure we'll see each other in the chats and everything throughout the week. Good drafting. Talk to you guys later.
But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for.